What new revenue streams could Google implement? This is what I call one of the creativity questions you could be asked in a consulting case interview, and they are vital to getting that offer. So in today's video, we'll be looking at how you can be more creative and nail those creativity questions. Hi, my name's Henry. I'm an incoming BCG consultant, and welcome to the Consulting Axis, where our mission is to help you align your future in consulting. So if that sounds good and you want to do that, then consider subscribing. But for now, let's get right into the video. Now, before I tell you how you can improve your creativity, I think it's really important to understand why it's so important to consultants. Now, consultants are often brought in by companies to solve issues they've been struggling to solve themselves. And this means you need to think outside the box to come up with unique solutions that they haven't thought about already. And it's no surprise that so many ex-consultants have used this ability to become incredibly successful. Take Susan Wojcicki, who started working at Bain before being involved in starting up Google and is now CEO of YouTube, and as we all know, that's a pretty big deal. So now let's talk about how you can get better at being creative in your case interviews, and I think I can split this into 2 points. The first point being is to not worry too much about the practicality of your ideas. In your interview, they don't expect you to be an expert in any industry really, and this is especially true for entry-level hires. So for example, if they ask you for ideas to how a steel manufacturing factory could be more efficient, they don't expect you to have any pre-knowledge really in this topic. So don't worry about your ideas being spot on, because they'd prefer to have someone that has maybe really interesting ideas that might not work practically than someone that has just very obvious, boring answers, because that person will not help them solve very difficult business problems. So let's look at an example. Let's say we're doing a case study about a bank that wants to attract more younger customers to open a bank account with them. Now, there are many good obvious ideas like making sure you have online banking, and it's good to say these ideas, but if you only say these, they won't remember you. A more unique, less generic answer to this could be that you know that a large proportion of the younger generation use online dating, and therefore you can collaborate with a dating app that means that if someone has a bank account with you, then they get perks on the dating app. Now, on to my second point about how you can be more creative, and it's quite simply practice. If you don't think you're an incredibly creative person, I promise you, you can get better. And I think the best way to do this is to just incorporate this into your daily life. Let's say you're walking down the street and you see a street food vendor, you should be asking yourself questions like, how could they get more customers? Could they be playing music? Maybe having a bigger, more eye-catching sign, etc. And this is a strategy I put in place when practicing, and it helped me get so much more creative, and I promise you it will do the same for you. So now that you're really creative and you can come up with ideas, how can you really nail those creativity questions in the interview? Now, this may sound simple, but I'm going to split this into them asking the question, you thinking about the answer, and then you answering the question, because there are certain things you should do in each step. So let's start with asking. Whilst they're explaining the question, you should be doing 2 things. Firstly, you should be noting down the key bits of information. And secondly, a really important thing is to look interested. If you're in that interview, I imagine you're interested in consulting, so let them know you're interested in what they're saying. Also, after they finish explaining the question, you should ask them clarifying questions if anything was unclear. So once you've done this, you should say something like, can I just have a minute to help me have a think about this? And now we get on to the thinking. So if you follow my advice in the previous section, you should be able to come up with lots of ideas, but how can you do this quickly, under pressure, in an interview? So most creativity questions can be broken down into how can this company reach this objective. So firstly, the objective can be anything like increasing profit, expanding their business, etc. And secondly, you really need to think about the company. Who are their customers? What niche are they in? And how can you use or change this to reach this objective? Now, you may not have the answers to all these questions you're asking yourself, but having this sort of structured way of thinking will really help you come up with lots of ideas quickly and under pressure. So finally, let's get on to how you can really answer this question. And you may think to yourself, well, just say your ideas, and that's basically correct, but there's a way to do it even better. Firstly, make sure you say a range of ideas. Don't just base it all on one idea, because that's not showing a range of creativity. So let's say the objective was to increase profit, and you think you can do this by increasing the number of customers. don't just base all your ideas on how you can increase customers, because that's not showing a range of ideas. Secondly, the order you say your answers in is actually quite important. So I'd say make sure to say the more important, more obvious ones first. So for example, in our banking example from earlier, make sure to say online banking as one of your first ideas, and then once you get towards the end, make sure to say your more unique, more off-piste ones, because this will really help them remember you. So let's just do a quick recap. So to get better at being more creative, make sure you don't worry too much about the practicality of your ideas, and also make sure you ask yourself business questions every day. Now in your interview, you need to excel in the 3 stages. So firstly, when they ask you the question, make sure you're noting down and make sure you look interested. Secondly, in the thinking stage, make sure you have a very structured approach to your thinking like I explained. And finally, in the answering step, make sure you have a range of ideas that are very well ordered. So thank you very much for watching, and now that you've watched this entire video, let's go back to the question we started this video with. So let me know in the comments, what new revenue streams do you think Google could implement? But for now, best of luck with your consulting case interviews.